So, is the Postmates IPO off?
Xbox, Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google,
eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon, Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and there has been a lot made this year about all the tech companies that are going public. Uber and Lyft have gone public, have pretty much crashed. Fiverr and Slack have gone public, have done definitely a lot better than they expected. And then of course you had Grubhub, who was the first gig economy company to go public. And going public means an infusion of cash, but it also means a lot more scrutiny over how the business is handled. Well, apparently Postmates might be, who was supposed to be going public at some point this year, is actually considering selling themselves to one of their competitors rather than going public. However, before we talk about any of that, let's have a word from our sponsors.
Thanks, Kevin. Hi, I'm Jonathan with gigworker.com, and we've been commissioned to conduct a survey by an insurance company that's getting ready to put out a new insurance product specifically for Uber and Lyft drivers. But they want to get some information from drivers that will help them tweak the insurance so it really fits our needs. So I wanted to invite you to participate in the survey because they're going to use your answers to help them design the cheapest Uber and Lyft insurance available. Not only will it be cheaper, but it will cover a lot more, like lost wages when you can't work because your car is in the shop. Think about that. So if you're an Uber or Lyft driver, would you take about 5 minutes to complete the survey? Kevin said he'll leave a link down below in the description. If you could click on that at the end of the video, that would be great.
From Recode, Postmates has explored a sale to Uber or DoorDash instead of going public. This is really interesting because of what it probably suggests is the real stability of the gig economy, Anyway, it says, a half dozen American food delivery companies are battling for dominance. Consolidation seems inevitable. The U.S. doesn't need so many venture-backed companies in an industry defined by low margins, similar services, and fickle customer loyalty. I don't know, that's kind of working for the fast food business. I mean, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's, Carl's Jr., Jack in the Box. I mean, that's all the same garbage, and yet those seem to do well. And yet, no end has appeared in sight. But Recode has learned that one of the most prominent of these startups, Postmates, has explored a sale instead of becoming a standalone public company, which it announced plans to do in February. Staring at a public market that has been unkind toward consumer IPOs like Lyft and Uber because, well, like Postmates, it should be noted, they don't make money. So yeah, the stock market is very, very unkind when you don't make money. Postmates in recent months has had persistent talks with many of the likeliest acquirers in the space, including DoorDash, Walmart, and Uber, which operates Uber Eats according to multiple sources. It's interesting that they should include Walmart. I actually think Walmart would make the most sense, but let's continue. The clear sign that Postmates, which was expected to be the next hot consumer industry IPO, has seriously considered a sale, it has been working with Catalyst Partners, the boutique investment bank famous for selling tech companies. People familiar with the matter told Recode. Postmates is trying to keep its options open. It has been considering following through with its much delayed IPO or raising a private round of financing that could push its IPO out even further, the sources say. And if they could do it, I recommend doing that. Don't go public until you absolutely have to, especially if you're not making money. A Postmates spokesperson said it disputed Recode's reporting, because of course they do, but declined to specify on the record what the company was actually disputing. The company pointed to second measure data that showed Postmates is growing faster than Uber Eats and Grubhub nationally, while remaining especially popular in places like Los Angeles. Yeah, but that doesn't mean you're making money, which is at the root of all this. Postmates has about 10% of total market share across the U.S., which, in most cases, that should be enough to have a viable business, except with what they're charging, it's not going to be viable. So you need to have like a whole lot more market share so that you can raise the prices. And, anyway, we've been over that before in previous videos. Quote, eventually you'll probably see some consolidation, and I think we always like to think a few steps ahead. Is there a super company that we could create that would make a lot of sense? Postmates CFO Kristen Schaefer said in February, just before the company filed to go public. But at the same time, we don't have to take that path. Yeah, it's interesting whenever a company says, hey, is there like a big super company we can make? Like one that controls this. And it's like, yeah, no, super companies are bad for consumers. They are. More competition, more business, more employees, better all around. I mean, look, Disney bought Fox, and the first thing they started doing, they started shuttering all the smaller studios that made like dramas like Love Simon and I Can Only Imagine. It's like, no. And what are we going to get more? We're going to get more superheroes. We're going to get a sequel to Aladdin, for God's sakes. No, you don't want to consolidate, especially for, I don't know. Here's the thing. It's been argued that more competition for drivers is actually a bad thing. Like, I think there's a lot of drivers, couriers, who would love there to be one big super gig economy company. Because in their mind, if there's only one, they wouldn't be cutting our rates so that they could fight with one another. And yet, the funny thing is, from what we have seen, the drivers actually lose more when there's less competition. Because think about it. When Uber and Lyft were super at each other's throats, like, they were just trying what they could to get as many drivers on as possible, drivers got bonuses, better pay, new features that actually helped them, not just app redesigns. They got all that stuff. And yet, once Lyft basically decided, you know what? We're just going to copy Uber. Let's just do what they do like a week later and stop trying so hard to get drivers. Well, now the pay sucks. Bonuses are less. Features are non-existent. They don't innovate anymore. Every time they change something, it's just to hurt the driver and help the consumer. So, this comment, is there a super company we could create? No. Disagree with that 100%. Anyway, why does this matter? Well, an acquisition could affect the prices that Americans pay for food delivery. True. On one hand, it could allow for dominant players like Uber Eats to achieve cost savings that would make your dinner cheaper. Maybe. Or maybe it would remove needed competition, allow middlemen to raise their prices. Much more likely, in my opinion. It could also shape the reinvigorated conversation around labor rights in Silicon Valley. Delivery startups like Postmates have drawn recent criticism for their relationships with couriers who deliver more than food and technically are contractors rather than employees. The classification has been criticized by workers' rights groups because it deprives them of certain benefits that full-time employees enjoy. This is true. We've been talking about it quite a bit recently. If Postmates sold to a competitor like DoorDash or Uber, each with its own controversial workers' practices, not that Postmates isn't, but, we'll ignore that for the time being, the situation for Postmates' workforce of contractors might get worse rather than better. Oh, yeah, you sell a DoorDash or Uber Eats, yeah, it's going to get worse. I mean, look, Postmates is not great by any stretch of the imagination, but they're certainly better than DoorDash and Uber Eats. And lastly, if Postmates were to sell, it would also reveal some aftershock of how Uber and Lyft's disappointing IPOs are impacting the plans of other high-profile IPO prospects. As of now, Postmates appears still slated to head public, albeit on a much delayed schedule. One person briefed on Postmates plans said that it is very much trying to avoid an IPO and that its first choice is to be bought, if a deal can be arranged at the right price. Others close to the situation insist Postmates is, quote, full steam ahead on preparing for an IPO. Either way, the acquisition talks help explain why Postmates, 5 months after stating very publicly that it planned to IPO, has not visibly taken some of the steps required to pursue that action. All this back and forth with potential acquirers comes amid signs that Postmates could have trouble on Wall Street because, there's a lot of signs that the gig economy was not ready for Wall Street. Some analysts who met with Postmates in recent months told others in the industry that they had concerns over the company's financial footing. According to people familiar with the matter, those concerns, however, were not shared with Postmates, its board, or its bankers directly, and so the sources say it did not affect Postmates' IPO timing. One of Postmates' IPO meetings with Wall Street is its modeling day was also pushed back at least once this spring, a delay that made some investors and analysts queasy about, according to one of these sources. These would not be the first investors to raise concerns about the food delivery sector, which has historically been considered one of the toughest businesses in online commerce. The company's independence has created a scattershot network of regional dominations with companies like Grubhub dominant in Chicago, New York, where its own seamless and with Hollywood stamp Postmates practically a verb in Los Angeles. Yeah, by the way, it's very hard, very, very hard to begin delivery. I mean, Burger King wanted to get into food delivery. They wanted to become like the Domino's of fast food restaurants. And the Domino's CEO, because Domino's, for all their flaws, has a meticulously good delivery system. You order the food, you can track it online. It's very, very efficient. They pretty much said to the Burger King CEO, good luck, because they know how difficult it really is. And I think that Burger King delivery thing, it was test piloting. In fact, it was test piloting in my area. I had Burger King delivered once. It was no easier than getting Postmates or DoorDash, and it really, I didn't see it lasting, and I think it's been quietly discontinued. So if Burger King has a difficult time doing it, then yeah, Postmates, DoorDash, Grubhub, all these other companies, they are going to have a hard time too. Now, granted, they have a foothold. However, it's so scatterbrained. There's no loyalty between Postmates and DoorDash for the most part. It's kind of like Uber and Lyft. Whoever's offering the promotions, that's where someone's going to order from. Except for me. I don't order from DoorDash ever. So, anyway. So, Postmates has been surveying and pursuing other options. It's not uncommon for a company to at least explore a sale even as it prepares to go public. Startups often will pursue multiple strategies at once, and sometimes they do sell at the last minute before they hit the public market. Postmates and Catalyst have also fielded some interest originating from potential acquirers. People familiar with the matter say, but in a small sector where nearly all of the competitors know one another intimately, it can be a thin line between any inbound interest and organic talks that emerge from diners and drinks. So here's how the U.S. food delivery customer overlaps in the first quarter of 2019, and this is very interesting. This is very, very interesting. But, anyway, here's some of the people they talked to. They have informally spoken to Walmart, which could potentially use a last mile delivery provider with a possible deal. Now, it says Postmates' likely asking price makes the tie-up unlikely. I find that hard to believe. Walmart has a lot of money to play around with, and Target is doing Shipt. And Target has now gained a competitive advantage in some areas where people want to buy from Target, but they want it now and they don't want to leave, so they do Shipt. So if Walmart, partnered with Postmates, not only would they have someone to deliver Walmart merchandise to customers in the area, but by seeing what other people buy, they would get data on people's buying habits outside of Walmart. So I think there's actually a lot of value for Walmart to own Postmates, at least for Walmart. And for that reason, I don't want them to own Walmart, but, whatever. The most serious talks seem to have been with Uber, though it's not clear who reached out to whom. And yeah, because Uber would definitely know it because Uber Eats is profitable for them. It's one of the few things about the company that is profitable. So they buy Postmates, they get all those customers, they get all their couriers, and they absorb a competitor. That would make a lot of sense. Postmates has also had discussions with DoorDash, which was once their fiercest rival. However, Postmates might truly be out of DoorDash's range. And by the way, I would hate for DoorDash to get Postmates because, that makes sense. Same thing with Uber Eats, except DoorDash totally sucks. So, by the way, here's the monthly market share when it comes to the food delivery companies. And you can see Grubhub, they had quite a bit in 17, and they've definitely dipped a bit. You get to DoorDash, they've been growing. You have Uber Eats, and they've kind of been steady. And then you have Postmates. This is why Postmates might be considering selling. Look, they haven't made much of a dent at all. These other companies are either gaining or lowering. Postmates has seemed pretty consistent. That, and then you have other. Now, the thing about this Postmates thing is, that might say, well, that looks bad. Actually, this is probably one of the best things that makes them ideal for being bought out because it shows them being consistent. And companies like consistency when it comes to their money. So anyway, there's a whole lot of article here. We don't know for sure what's going to happen. However, it would make sense for Postmates to sell themselves, especially since the stock market it's not ready for the gig economy. The gig economy is not ready for Wall Street. The gig economy is right now based on expansive growth, aggressive growth, and a lot of losses to do it. Wall Street, not about that. Yeah, when you're growing, in some rare cases like with Amazon and Netflix, they will overlook the fact that you're not making a lot of money or you're taking on a lot of debt, I should say, because your growth is particularly impressive. But here's the thing. Grubhub is publicly traded, and this is why their stock suffers a little bit. By the way, I have a stock in Grubhub. And it's hurting a lot right now. This is what they don't want. Now, DoorDash, they're definitely gaining more, but Postmates would not be welcome onto Wall Street as much as Uber, Lyft, or even Grubhub, because Grubhub was doing really well at one point. Now they're not doing well. However, Postmates would be an ideal buying candidate. Walmart makes the most sense. Like I said, Walmart could have a gig economy company that would compete with Target Shipt. They could deliver their own items, and then they could even get buying habits data from people who buy from places other than Walmart. I don't want them to buy Postmates. I actually would prefer Postmates stay its own thing. I think all these companies should stay their own things. I'd like to see them all successful to a certain level so that there's options out there for people. Not only consumers, but for drivers. But this is the way it is. I mean, the truth is Uber and Lyft have done very poorly on the stock market. And Slack definitely dropped a little bit. I mean, I think Fiverr's the only one that's really doing well right now. And Grubhub's been losing a lot of market value because of being public. So I think Postmates are kind of reading the value. They probably realize it's not the time, but they probably can't survive much longer on VC funding. So they're probably looking at getting a feeler out there. Does anyone want to buy us? I agree. I think someone will want to buy them. If it's not Walmart, I bet you Uber would buy them. Uber tends to spend a lot of money just buying things that they don't need and can't use, but they do. So who knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be fascinating to watch regardless. But anyway, I'd like to know what you folks think about this. Do you think Postmates should sell themselves? Do you think they shouldn't? I would love to know. So comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices are getting just a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want more content from me, subscribe to my other YouTube channels, Kevin T. Rodriguez and the Apptrepreneur vlogs. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow couriers or rideshare drivers, check us out on Facebook at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.